time.
You can get started if you want to, Jose.
Sure. DC Housing Authority. Mr. Garrett will be joining us at some point during the call. He is, as we like to say, triple booked this morning, but he's going to hop on in between one of his calls. This is the second meeting, the first meeting of DCHA with the development group and the advisory group. We held a meeting with residents on December 10th. Be able to view after the fact. With that, we'll walk us through some next steps.
Jose, you're breaking up from time to time.
I'm trying to fix that, but thank you, Naomi. Andre, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for joining us today. As promised, we wanted to make sure that we brought the development team that was selected so that you can meet them today. I just wanted to remind you, this is one of our first steps. We're in the process of performing exclusive rights to negotiate with the development team to begin the negotiation period. We'll be meeting with you all at various points during the new year. And this is going to be a slow process, but we wanted to begin so that you guys can ask some initial questions and understand how we're going to roll out this process as we meet with you all, as well as the residents to begin the redevelopment of Greenleaf. I'm going to bring up now.
Very briefly, sorry, I apologize. I had a little bit of a start, but I just wanted to welcome everybody. Central Sankrin, DCHA. Thank you for joining us this morning, and just kind of to reiterate briefly what Andre was saying. You know, the intention of this meeting is truly as an introductory meeting for the advisory group and to get to know the folks who are going to be working on this project, both on the development team side and on the DCHA side a little better. And like this will be the first of multiple meetings as before. But, I do want to say that, you know, this meeting in particular is intended to be that introductory meeting. Let's get to know each other, and, know the groups that we represent, and speak through the overall vision, which was what we the primary reason of DCHA selecting this development team. And they can start sharing some high-level details. But it is, just to be clear, so that everyone is all on the same page, this is, again, the beginning of this process. So a lot of this still needs to be shaped. This is just the starting point from where we're working from, and look forward to working with your group in conjunction with the residents as well, in order to, effectuate the vision. So thank you very much. Sorry for the joining.
I guess, actually, before we actually get started, we should probably do some brief introductions. Central just introduced himself. I'll let him do it again. I'm Andre Gould. I'm the Senior Development Managers with the Housing Authority. Central.
Sorry, I thought I had missed that portion, sir. It's Central Sankrin, DCHA, Director of the Office of Real Estate Development and Capital Programs. Jose, I think everybody knows, but do you want to?
Jose Sousa, I do whatever Deborah Frazier tells me to do. I'm with the Communications and Public Affairs team at DCHA.
I see that Director Garrett just popped on. If Director Garrett, if you can hear us, if you just want to introduce yourself quickly, we had a little opening statements, but then we were just going around introducing ourselves.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm juggling a few early morning calls, but I'm glad to be on with you guys. Hope you're all well and safe.
Sasha, could you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Alexander Serna, or I go by Sasha. So if you see any communication from me, it'll be from Alexander. And I'm a development manager at DCHA, and I'm so excited to move this project forward.
Jack, do you want to introduce yourself and the team?
Sure, thank you. My name is Jack Lester. Hi, Deborah. I too do what Deborah tells me to do, Jose. Nice to connect with you. I'm Jack Lester. I'm with EYA. I'm on this call with my colleague, Pam Lee. EYA is a local developer. We specialize in two things, primarily infill development, for sale housing, and a big component of what we do is mixed income housing. We've been very active with the City of Alexandria Housing Authority, the Montgomery County Housing Authority, and of course we've worked for years with the DC Housing Authority, most recently on the project at the Navy Yard, Capitol Quarter. So thank you, and I'll just say before we go further that we're really humbled by the trust that the Housing Authority has placed in us and the responsibility that we have to the residents and to the neighborhood to deliver, a shared vision for the redevelopment of Greenleaf. So thank you. Maybe Devin or Mike.
Sure, I'll jump in. Good morning. This is Mike Hennihan with Bizzuto. I am the president of Bizzuto Development. I'm joined on this call with Devin Hasty, who at least on my screen is on the top row of this Hollywood Square boxes here. But we're happy to be here, as Jack said, humbled and certainly feel a great amount of responsibility to bring our resources to the table and help move this process forward in a successful manner. And I'll hold, I think, Jack, on introducing Bizzuto as a whole. I think that's part of...
Oh, the next step.
I think so, but I can do it now if you guys want to.
No, we can come back to that. I'll step back in, and I see John Michaels is on the call. Our third partner is Penrose. Ivy Carter is the principal at Penrose, she's off this week, so she couldn't join us. John is on, and again, an incredible partner. We could talk a little bit about each of our individual strengths in the next segment.
Perhaps if the advisory group can just briefly introduce each other.
I'll start. I'm Ron Collins. I am the ANC commissioner for 6003, where in Greenleaf Gardens is located.
I'm Frederica Kramer. People know me as Ricky. I am actually on the advisory council as the vice chair of the Near Southeast Southwest Community Benefits Coordinating Council, known as CBCC. Since I joined the advisory council, I've also joined the ANC. So I'm ANC commissioner for across the street, essentially, from Greenleaf, if that's an easy way to do it. Across, I represent the east side of 4th Street, from I Street all the way down to Buzzard Point, through Buzzard Point.
Hello, everybody. I'll be going next. I'm Rick Bardash. I'm a member of the Greenleaf Advisory Council, longtime Southwest resident, longtime retired, and live in Harbor Square on 4th Street Southwest. Dina, I see you. You want to go next? or Naomi?
Any of our phone callers, if you want to
Okay,
unmute,
okay.
press star
Am I
6.
unmuted?
Go ahead,
Yes,
Naomi.
sir.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm Naomi. I am community liaison for Councilmember Charles Allen. I've been in this role working with folks in Southwest for the last 14 years.
This is Dina Walker. I'm the resident council president for Greenleaf Garden.
Thank you, Ms. Ms. Frazier, if you want to unmute, press star 6.
Everyone, I'm Deborah Frazier, housing activist and survivor, one of the few of the disastrous Caper Townsburg Hope Project, and a member of the wonderful Greenleaf Advisory Council. Happy day, everyone.
Okay, Andre, I think we've got everybody.
All right, and before we get started, I'd like LaShawn to introduce herself as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is LaShawn Douglas. I'm with DC Housing Authority, and at work in public affairs. Thank you, Andre.
Computer's moving a little slow. I'll get it started in 1 second. Can you all see that?
We're good, Andre. Andre, you're on mute.
All right. So the purpose of this meeting today is to meet the development partners. All right. Just a quick recap. Our Board of Commissioners actually approved the selection of the team, Greenleaf District Partners, which consists of Penrose, EYA, and Bozzuto. December 10th, we had our first meeting with the residents as well as Greenleaf District Partners. It was a robust discussion, and the residents got to ask some questions that were burning. And today we're here with the Greenleaf Advisory Group, which has been part of the planning process since the beginning. Right. This is your team, including DCHA. And I will turn it over to Greenleaf District Partners to talk a little bit about themselves.
Well, good morning again. This is Jack Lester. I'm with EYA. Thank you so much for this opportunity to meet you all, and we're looking forward to working closely together over the coming months and years to realize this shared vision for Greenleaf. Just a little bit about our team. As I said, it's EYA, Bozzuto, and Penrose. We are very experienced in mixed income development. We're experienced in project management and in general contracting. So we come to this with the full set of skills to deliver on the vision. And I think more than the skills, right? There's probably others out there that have a set of skills to deliver. I think it's our approach and it's our passion for mixed income in creating great communities. This slide just talks about kind of the depth of that experience. over 40,000 units developed, over 42,000 built, over 85,000 managed, and a real focus on mixed income projects, more than 100 mixed income projects. And experience, when I see the 4,000 RAD units, this is an area where Penrose is expert, but it is their expertise in the mixed income financing component and the interface with HUD and DCHA to deliver the right project in the right financing structure. Next slide, Andre. Devin, you can talk a little bit more about the build first. We know this was a critical component, maybe the critical component, that there be a build first site here. And I think we have a variety of excellent options, and Devin can talk a little bit about those.
Thanks, Jack. Hi, everyone. I'm Devin Hasty again with Bizzuto. As Jack mentioned, as we're thinking through this process, understanding that build first is a really critical component of moving everything forward. We thought about multiple options and opportunities that you're seeing here on the screen. And these are some of the things that we included in our proposal, but this is, going to continue to evolve, and we're going to continue to look at options. But just to give you guys a little more background on what we're showing here, I think most of you are probably familiar with Westminster Church and their redevelopment plan. So this is a project that Bizzuto and Dante's partners have been working with the church on for a couple years now. It is moving forward independently through the zoning process. We're hoping to get the project rezoned early next year. And it includes not only a redevelopment and expansion of the church facilities, but adds 222 multifamily units to the site. Of that, there are 123 planned as affordable units. So there is a potential opportunity there. They're planned as senior affordable units in particular. And then there's another 99 units included in the development. So pending timing and sort of how things progress, that's one option that we have right near the Greenleaf site. Additionally, just to the north, you're seeing Capitol Park Plaza and Twins. So the owner of these buildings is a member of our project team. And these are existing buildings, today that were recently renovated, amenitized buildings, and they have units that become available in the natural course of things as people move out. So there could be an opportunity there if that fits with sort of residents' needs and timing. And in addition, and what we think is really exciting is that there's also a development site next to the northernmost Capitol Park building. So you're seeing the potential building there in the upper right-hand corner, which could be up to 86 units. And again, this project in particular is exciting because it could be built by right, so you wouldn't need to go through the zoning process, and it could potentially move forward more quickly than other build first options. So again, these are some of the things that we've been thinking about, and as we work with DCHA and the residents and you all and the larger community, we hope to make one of these or something else work.
Thanks, Devin. Andre, could you go to the next slide?
Jack, before you move on, if I can jump in, just make one point from DCHA's perspective as well, and I think it's important to share. Andre, if you can go back a slide. With regards to the build first units, as we had indicated in our previous conversations and also to the board, it was a critical piece for the DCH team making the recommendation to move forward in negotiations with this team. But again, to caveat, these are projects that the development team has brought forward as potential options and has demonstrated site control to DCHA. During our negotiations, it'll be contingent upon DCHA and the development team being able to reach terms for these. So in order to, as we continue to meet and progress these conversations, we'll be able to provide more details as to, which ones become viable, which ones, and then number of units, because this will all be contingent upon, the financing that all parties would be able to bring to the table in order to determine how many units would be available as build first opportunities for Greenleaf residents. But again, what I want to stress is that this was a strength of the team that you see in front of you, is in that they've come to the table with legitimate options that they have under their control. So sorry for the interruption, Jack.
No, thanks for clarifying. We know it is such a key component to this development and its success. I want to introduce my colleague Pam Lee, who will be working every day with me on this redevelopment. So Pam, do you want to just talk a little bit about the concept that we developed for the redevelopment?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Pamela Lee, and I'm with EYA, like Jack said. And I just want to echo his sentiment that, we're really humbled by the trust that's, being placed in us. And we really take this responsibility very seriously. And we just want to go over on a high level, our proposed vision for the site. I think it's important to remember that this is going to be a multi-phased project that's going to take place over several years. And we'll be working extensively with the community, with the advisory group to really help shape the plan. But at a high level, we proposed over 1,400 units of mixed income and affordable rental units. I think one big, taking a step back, one of the key components of our plan is that we were proposing a mix of housing types and tenures that we think will be important for creating a really vibrant community. So that includes the rental units and also 130 townhomes, about 80 plus condo units. We're also proposing 35,000 square feet of commercial space. A lot of that will be on M Street. We're proposing extensive outdoor spaces. We'll be working with you to program those spaces and think about how those can best serve the community's needs. And overall, it'll be about 2 million square feet of development when the plan is ultimately complete. Next slide, please. And this just shows you a high-level vision of what the site could look like at the end of the development period. One thing I just want to emphasize is that when we developed our plan, we did a lot of research about the prior work that had gone on. I know that there was an extensive community planning process. So the framework for the plan is really the Southwest, the 2014 Southwest plan, and then we also built on the 2017 Greenleaf plan developed by Perkins.
Thank you, Pam. Exactly, and I'll just echo that sentiment that the plan the framework was created by this community over the years. In 2014, the Southwest Neighborhood Plan, and then the Greenleaf Redevelopment Plan in 2017. But of course, time has marched on, and everything evolves. So that's why this next piece, the community participation, becomes so important in how we communicate, how we receive feedback, how we incorporate it, how we kind of create that loop of constant communication, evolution of the plan, recommunicating out with the group to make sure that we're getting buy-in and that folks have a voice in this process. So it's a hallmark of what we all three do. We all are engaged in kind of mixed income developments or infill developments, where we're coming into existing neighborhoods. I mean, this is really the DNA of EYA. We are always building where folks have lived for many, many decades. So we know when we're coming into a community that we've got to meet their needs, and we've got to fit into their larger context. So it's part of who we are as a team. And then the other piece of that is the communication. And so we want to develop a framework for participation in this constant communication. Next slide, Andre, please. So the section 3, and we know this is an important element of hiring and training and engaging residents and the larger community. I would just say on this, we all are very experienced in this in a meaningful way. We have all brought in residents and neighbors in training opportunities and in job opportunities. I think we can talk more about this and develop those plans on how we can really reach out to folks in the community and get them meaningful opportunities. Just at EYA, of course, as a general contractor, we have opportunities in that side of the business. I'll speak just briefly for Devin and Mike at Bozzuto. They have one of the regions, if not the country's largest property management companies, and one of the region's largest general contractors. So lots of employees, lots of opportunities for internships, full-time jobs, training, and really career opportunities. And I know that too is true of Penrose, who is extraordinarily skilled in kind of community engagement and resident engagement. They too have a management firm where, again, they can engage residents, train them, and set them on to career opportunities. And we also look at the commercial development component of this as serving the residents of Greenleaf in the larger community. So, we're not imagining we're imagining services that not only provide the needed services for the community, but also create opportunities for jobs and job training. Next slide, Andre. And again, it's I've probably previewed this a little bit, but it starts with having a detailed plan, developing that plan with the community, engaging the residents, doing really thorough outreach, finding those folks that want to be engaged, and setting very demanding targets for hiring and for training. And so these are things that we're experienced in and look forward to executing on in this redevelopment. And next slide. And Andre, do you want to pick it up from here and kind of the next round?
Actually, I'll pass it to Jose or LaShawn.
I've been having. Hear me? Andre, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Sorry, so I apologize in advance if had Andre just take over, but thank you all for being here with us this morning. Obviously, we're going to continue doing monthly meetings with residents, and obviously we'll continue to also do quarterly meetings with this group. In addition, we know that we'll also be going back to ANC 6D probably within the next month or so to try to give an update to the full commission. I know that there's a couple of commissioners on the call this morning. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are uploading the meeting recordings of not just the resident meetings, but of this group. They're being posted to the dcha.us Greenleaf page. We are also transferring a lot of residents. We are preparing the materials ahead of time, printing them and having them delivered door to door to residents. That way they can follow along with the decks in case they can't see them on the computers or on their phones. In addition, we do have a dedicated email address, greenleaffeedback@dchousing.org, where folks can submit questions and our team will answer. But we anticipate that over the course of the next several months, we'll be going into more depth on several subjects that you see listed here, on Build First, on one-for-one replacement, what the relocation process looks like, project phasing, but most importantly for residents is also the opportunity to take advantage of resident services programming over the course of the next several months and years as we go through this process. Andre, do you want to go to the next slide? So we already have our next meeting scheduled with residents. It'll be taking place on January 28th. With the team, and then we'll come back before the advisory group again for another meeting in March of 2021. And at this time, I think we'll open it up for questions unless there's any other closing comments from Senthil or any of the members of the team that want to say something before we get started to questions.
Yeah, Jose, if I can just jump in 1 second, thank you. Obviously, this WebEx, Zoom, or whatever video conferencing medium is imperfect. In an ideal world, we'd be meeting in person. Basically creates to be honest, I think the greater level of personal connections that this project will need and require over life of the project, and we eagerly look forward to being able to do so when it is safe to do so. So we appreciate everyone's willingness to meet through this medium for the time being. You know, while we do have a schedule for meetings, which I think we can move forward with, I also do want to emphasize that Andre and Sasha, who are going to be the project leads for DCHA, are accessible. So in between meetings, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. If you also have my personal cell number, so I fully expect some texts or calls, and just know that I will return those messages, text. I think it's important to know that, as I was mentioning earlier, this is the start of a process, and this is a relationship that we're building over time, and we really look forward to doing so. And part of that is open communication. And so I think the best way to do that is I'll buy it now, and let's start taking some questions, and we will answer them to the best of our ability.
Sure. So, Cynthia, why don't we do this? I'm going to recognize folks individually, and then that way I can instruct who's going to hop on. So why don't we start off with Ms. Walker. Ms. Walker, *6 on your phone.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Mr. If you want to unmute, any questions or comments, sir?
Yes, thank you very much, everybody, for the presentation. That was great to understand some. I didn't know when I'd be asking questions, but since I'm at the beginning, Build First is definitely a big part of everyone's concerns. And of course, we understand that, redevelopment of Greenleaf doesn't start tomorrow. Obviously, we'll be real lucky if it starts in a year from now, and it probably will be longer than that. But let's just pretend it's going to start tomorrow. Based on what you guys have presented, we know that Westminster, of course, is going to be several years before it builds. We know that Capitol Park is going to, same thing. But again, let's project that those are happening in the very near future. Right now, what's the concept that you all have as to which members of residents of Greenleaf will move first, and at least what category might move first, and then where would they move? To Westminster's new development, to Capitol Park's new development, or something else?
So, Rick, if I can jump in briefly before the developers do. So a lot of this is information that is still to be determined, right? So that's why I want to make sure it's clear that, as I mentioned earlier about the Build First opportunities, a lot of the who will be coming from where and how many is going to be dependent upon a lot of different factors, which include financing as to how much is available so that we can move folks to a certain area. How many units will we have? What does that then enable us to unlock on site for redevelopment, and where will those residents come from, and the prioritization of that order? And like a lot of that has to be done, and that engagement has to happen on so many different levels, from the financial negotiations, the legal negotiations, and then most importantly, the engagement with the residents. And so I would caution anyone on this call to speak definitively about that, because we're not in a position to do so. But that being said, I do think the developers can speak about their overall development vision as to what they've presented. And then Jack, if I can ask you to, or someone else on your team to speak to the kind of like the planning process and an engagement with the community that'll happen through that planning process, the planning and design process.
Sure, Senthil. Devin, maybe if you're comfortable talking a little bit about our phasing, concept, and again, the notion here is that to is number one is executing the build first, so that nobody is displaced, right? That is what is paramount here. And so creating that initial build where folks can comfortably stay within the neighborhood and relocate, so that we can progressively go block by block, as they've been labeled through the RFP, blocks A through E. Devin, do you want to talk about how we free up that first block?
Yeah, sure. And yeah, like Senthil said, I mean, I think a lot of this is evolving as we speak, and will continue to, especially as we figure out the sort of process with HUD and other things that need to happen, which will impact what we can do. But I think our build first options, to your point about the timeline, one of the reasons we focused on these specific options was because they were moving forward or existed today in the case of the existing buildings, or had a unique opportunity through not going through zoning to be built faster. So all of those things combined, I think, really any and all of the options that we can identify that work for also the people that would be moving, it is something that we're going to continue to explore. So, I'm not sure that we have a direct answer on what happens first, but I think that the ability to try to do it as quickly as possible is definitely what we're going for.
Okay, thank you. Jose, back to you.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. I'm going to kick it over to our commissioners. So, Commissioner Kramer, you were the first member of our call today, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask a question.
Yeah, I'm on starting with the build first, because you have expressed well, and I'm glad that you understand that the community is extremely concerned about implementing build first. The first point, I guess, on that, since you don't really yet control any of these properties, I am concerned. The community's view of build first is that it doesn't require multiple moves. It's not just that you have to have a unit available at some point. I think that the perception of what build first is focused on the number of units that you're going to promise in the end. We understand that. We are extremely grateful for that. We understand that there's a locked-in commitment for the 493 units to be replaced one for one. But it goes beyond that, and the conception of the community has always been that it's one move, and the one move is because moves are extremely unsettling for any household. These are vulnerable families and vulnerable households. They have children that have to move around with school and all the other things and everything. Needless to say, the pandemic, we hope, will be over, but you can understand the problem with the pandemic. So I am very personally concerned that you are not planning multiple moves. I think that should be a principle of part and parcel of build first, as well as the timing. And the other thing I would say about build first, which relates to the seniors, is I would like to hear whether you intend to move the seniors into a building of their own, because the question then becomes what services are connected with those households, which, as we know, the seniors will have to have services connected with as with everybody else, but the seniors are particularly dependent on that. So starting with the build first, I've posited 3 points. One of them is the multiple move issue. The second one is because you don't yet control any of the properties that you're thinking of, I'm uneasy about sort of when that's going to fall into place and how. And the third thing relates to the seniors. I have a couple of other questions, but if you want to stop me on the build first thing first, I'll stop. I'll pause for a moment.
Commissioner Kramer, if I can jump in first. One, just to be clear, regarding site control, this team does have control of the sites that they presented, and they were demonstrated to DCHA. So just to clarify that. And then also to state DCHA policy, it is also our objective in order to have singular moves And as part of what we're negotiating for these build first properties would be whether it be Westminster or potentially the new build at, was it Capitol? I'm always
Capitol Plaza.
Capitol Plaza. Thank you. Sorry, I always get the names mixed up. That is our objective as well. I think it's important to note that the development team who's one of their partners is Capitol Plaza. They also have an existing building where they said they could augment for temporary moves if needed. So that's
Could you just clarify, just give us the name so they don't move around? You said there's a new build. What are you referring to in Capitol Plaza?
Andre, do you want to pop up the slide and then Devin can speak to.
Thanks.
Yeah, and sorry, so it's Capitol Park Plaza and Capitol Park Twins are the names of the existing buildings. And when he pulls this up, I'll go through it.
And Commissioner, while she's pulling that up, I'll address your senior question in that it is also our objective, knowing that our senior population has specific needs in order to have specific senior buildings. And Andre, do you want to speak? I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that as well.
So you're committing to a the senior building will be one new contiguous place. Is that right?
It could be multiple senior. That's why I need to caveat, and I apologize if I'm making this point again. This is still all subject to planning, right? As to, but it is the goal is for seniors to be in a senior building. It may not be one full senior building. It may be multiple buildings of various size, but that is still to be determined.
Yeah, and I can expand on that. So at Westminster, for instance, it is the redevelopment is bifurcated into two towers. One is a 123 unit affordable senior tower that would have associated senior services. And that has the church on the ground floor, which should provide sort of additional services and opportunities. So that would be a standalone senior building. And our partner there, in addition to Westminster, is Dante's Partners, who has done many senior affordable buildings in the DC community. So they're experts at that. And then in Capitol Park, Plaza and Twins. So those are the developments just north of the Greenleaf site. And so that building that we're showing in the upper right-hand corner could be up to an 86 unit building. It could be senior, it could be non-senior, either one, but that would be available to become either.
I'm still not clear where that built. Maybe my colleague, Mr. Collins knows. I don't know anything about that. I don't know what that is. I guess that's a very simple question. I don't know what you're referring to. Yeah.
So they have a right next to the building as it exists today. There's that extra excess parking lot. So today it's a parking lot, but it could become a development site. So just on G Street there, just past that building, Bozzuto had actually been working with the owner of Capitol Park Plaza and Twins to develop that site prior to Greenleaf. So we saw it as an opportunity when we partnered with our full team for Greenleaf to potentially use it in this capacity.
And Devin, that can be developed by right. How many units again? I know you said it, but how many?
Up to 86 would be by right. If you wanted to do something taller, I don't even know if it could be zoned because I don't think the comprehensive plan allows for anything taller, but it is currently zoned for up to 6 stories.
So the Westminster at 123.
You're identifying those. So just to be clear, so I don't want to, because there are other questions and other questions. We're talking now only about what you're aiming to do in seniors for seniors. You're identifying Westminster's senior building. The other building is market rate, so then there's no mix in it. So it's only you're identifying the senior building for Westminster, which you have control on over, and you're also identifying some different units in Capitol Park and Twins, and then this building that you're referring to, which doesn't have a name yet, but which is, you're saying, is the parking lot, is the current parking lot that I didn't hear who owns that, but those are the places you're identifying for the senior housing.
So just to be clear, Commissioner Kramer,
Yeah.
it's still to be determined. So right now, Westminster has already been determined as being a senior building, which is a potential opportunity for Build First, and that we would be negotiating for. Then the other site, which is that parking lot, which could support under current zoning up to 83 units, is still to be determined. It has not been designed as senior or family or anything as of yet. So again, this is all, we are very early in the planning process. We would work with the team in order to understand what unlocks the best potential, which would then open up development sites on site. So that this all has to happen in conjunction with DCHA in terms of like, where are the residents that we could, what type of residents, in terms of what category of residents should we move in order to do on-site development, so that we then can move folks from within the footprint of Greenleaf, from one portion of Greenleaf to another, so that we don't have any displacement. So that is what the Build First opportunities do is they help us unlock that. So, and I apologize if I'm being redundant. It is to be determined. But what I don't want is for folks to walk away from this meeting to say there's going to be X units of Build First here, and they're going to be all seniors, or this is going to be family, because that is not what we're saying at this stage. What we are saying is that this is a team that has brought sites that that DCHA now has the authority to negotiate with. Prior to, they were just proposals. We had not had any one-on-one with this team. And now it is contingent upon this team, along with DCHA and the residents and the community, to plan these sites that works best for the community and for DCHA, and most specifically for the residents.
Okay, I'm just gonna, sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, just so you know, so the owner of the Capitol Park buildings is a member of our team. So in terms of like control and ability to do something there, they are a member of our team. They weren't able to be here today, but.
Okay, let me just put because I know you're going to not have an answer for it, so let me put a couple of other things out on the table, which you know that we would like to know about, and then so I can let other people ask, give space to others. We also, in terms of the bill, which relates to the Build First, we are concerned that the Greenleaf generally contains large units, a lot of large units, 100 and something, I forgot the number off the top of my head, 140 or something, 3 to 5 bedroom units. So we are concerned about, I know that you're going to say we don't know that yet, but we are concerned about how you're going to determine how many large units you reconstruct for the current residents, and then of course how people people become eligible for those units. And the last set of questions, which I'm guessing you're not, or maybe you do have a blanket answer for it, but we are concerned about the ownership and management control, since this is a new to us, maybe not new to you. Co-development, co-ownership for the long term. We at some point, if you could speak to your expectations with that would be great. So I don't want to give some room for others to ask questions.
And I guess I'll take part of that question that you just asked. One of the reasons why we selected Greenleaf District Partners was because they offered.
So Andre, if I can jump in, sorry.
Okay.
These are all still subject to negotiation, but where I think Andre was going is that the team has expressed, we are truly seeking a co-developer where DCHA plays a significant role because of the importance of this development and the ability to ensure that the residents and the community interests and voices are heard. So, and this is a team that has demonstrated in the past and has expressed a significant amount of interest in playing a role like that. So, and I sound like a broken record, but this is still, it's all still subject to negotiation, but that is the position in where we are entering this negotiation and hope to be exiting this negotiation. Actual, complete structures will all still be subject and could vary on a building to building basis. And DCHA may prioritize different structures based upon the buildings itself. One's on-site versus off-site, for example. For example, the buildings on-site are land that is controlled by DCHA. These off-site are not controlled by DCHA, so DCHA's participation and leverage may be different. So again, these are all still at early stage. But your point is, I think what's most important is that your point is taken and the community and noted by DCHA as we go through these negotiations.
Thanks.
And Andre, what might be, you want to speak about how in other redevelopment projects we've addressed size needs and what's unlocked to residents based upon their family composition?
Yeah, and because this is going to be a phased project, we'll be able to work with the residents to get an idea of what residents' preferences are, and the type of units that residents want to relocate to, and we'll be able to survey. And because this team has proposed a plan that has varying housing types, that includes townhomes, that could provide some of those larger units, there's potential to redevelop some of those larger units as well to accommodate larger families. As we plan each phase, we'll be able to work with the residents to plan for their needs.
Commissioner Collins, if you'd like to ask your question, make a comment at this point.
No real question, but I just want to associate myself with Commissioner Kramer's questions or concerns, and to emphasize that for all of us, remember, this is a resident / people-driven project, and we are dealing with people and their lives. And so we should keep that in mind as we go through the planning process, and to also emphasize that we in Southwest want to maintain, as we have, a diverse and inclusive community. And so hopefully we keep those two things in mind, the diversity of our community, and that this project be people / resident driven, and to take into account all of the concerns from the seniors to small families in these units, that is our ultimate concern for quality housing for the residents in Greenleaf. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
With that, let me kick it over to Ms. Frazier. Ms. Frazier, *6 on your phone. If you want to unmute.
Okay, I unmuted. So, these 3 questions come to mind. One, it was mentioned, there's been talk about affordable units and, well, distinguish affordable units versus ACT units. Distinguish, please.
So, Jack, if you want to talk a little bit about, the affordability mix that you envision throughout the site, but from DCHA's perspective, it is 100% clear that we have 400 and I believe it's 93 public housing replacement units that need to be delivered. So, however, it is also our goal, because it is DCHA's mission to provide affordable housing, is to try and find ways where we can perhaps even build upon that and other levels of affordability are also to be met. But Jack, you want to speak to the?
Yes, just briefly, and you're right. Number one is the 493. Of course, we would also like to layer in different levels of affordability. Workforce, as Deborah, as you know, over at Capitol Quarter, there is workforce priced housing in that development as well. So you have, market rate, workforce, and the public housing. I think, this is a discussion. Clearly, we want that diverse and inclusive community. Deborah, as you know, I lived over at Capitol Quarter and had a public housing resident on one side and a police officer on the other. Where we really we need to understand is what the rent levels are, and this is really an area where Ivy and Senthil are expert in his team on what's available from HUD, right? Because and what is the optimal subsidy to bring to those 493 units? I think the goal has to be to bring in that kind of workforce housing. But again, there's trade-offs. We won't do that to sacrifice the 493 units. So I think it's get the 493 in the most optimal way, financed through HUD, and then layer in as much as we can of the workforce housing.
So I'm to understand that affordable includes workforce, ACC, and market rate?
No, the market rate would, the market rate is not affordable. So when I use the word, and these, I don't want to be loose with my terminology. When I think affordability, when I say affordable, I'm thinking anything that's not market. And then there's different levels of affordability, right? There's public housing, 0 to 30, and then they're all the way up to workforce, which might be, 60 to 100% of AMI. Depending on how that's defined. And of course,
so
yeah.
Go on.
I'm
so
sorry.
The 60% AMI is also a determinant of affordable. That would fall within that as well.
Yes, in my lexicon, anything that's other than market is affordable. So even 100% AMI, I can't remember at Capitol Quarter. I want to say it went to 60 to 100, or it may have been to 120, just because of the the high cost of living in the DC area. But anything that is capped, right? That there is a price cap put on the rent or on the purchase, I would deem as affordable. And I know that's a broad brush, right? We have kind of public housing is another way to say affordable, and workforce is another way to say affordable.
Yeah.
But if there is a cap on what people pay in rent or what they would pay to purchase a home, then in my mind that's affordable.
Just as a clarification, Mr. Azier, though, that at no point is there a deviation from the 493 public housing replacement units, though. So any of the affordability.
Say that one again. Say that one again. That's a big one for me.
Yeah, there at no point is it up for negotiation that there is a number less than 493 replacement units, public housing replacement units.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Okay. Second, I got another quick one. What's the board's role in this? Do they have to co-sign this agreement or vote on something or do something else? Does the board need to do something else in this process?
So prior to any financing or a commitment that is made by DCHA or a disposition of land controlled by DCHA, we'll go back to the board for their approval.
But nothing in foreseeable future for them to vote on or weigh in on.
Not in the foreseeable future, but I mean, when you say foreseeable, I mean our goal is to move this negotiation quickly so that we have a financing agreement to take to the board so that they can approve build first units on sites that DCHA does not control.
Okay, right. That sounds good. Now, we are still stinging at Capers 20 years later from poor capacity and limited negotiation. So serious concern, people, about housing authority and about housing authority especially, ability to move this thing along and negotiate. We recently had a meeting with Capers, and we asked about one of our squares for redevelopment, and the answer was, this team, we're still negotiating. It's 20 years later, you guys are still negotiating. I think I speak for the advisory committee and the residents. 20 years is not a go. We've heard you all toss around about 5 years into the ground or something, but please be clear. This area, southeast, southwest, is just kind of through and set up with long-term negotiations on where the comma goes, how many zeros go, square footage and all of that. Serious concerns about your ability, housing authority, to negotiate and close deals, which may be why you've got a set of partners who know how to do this. That's a comment that doesn't require, y'all can comment if you want to. That's a comment and an observation, and it's in, feel the intensity over here, represented by Capers people who are still waiting for 240 units. I'm getting off the soapbox. But we're not going to see that happen at Greenleaf. Am I clear, people? Everybody got that?
I think we understand you fully. Nope, we understand you fully, Ms. Frazier. And I think everybody is on the same page where we want to move swiftly, but we also understand that things don't happen overnight.
A participant has joined the meeting.
But we will try to make sure that we move in a swift fashion so that we can provide new housing for the residents.
And let me also suggest, Housing Authority, you at least have experience in Central, and the rest of your team, you at least have the experience of what didn't work, of what stalling points or what log jams they were with getting units built and land deals and all that. Take your experience from failure and let's make Greenleaf a success. And okay, by the way, we still waiting for our 240 units. Hello.
Well, Ms. Fraser, your comments are welcome and noted. As you know, I've been here about a year now. We are taking this approach very seriously, and I also hope, even as when we were communicating with you, I think that was last week about the Caper project, and we have our team takes this job very seriously, and also has taken on the mantle of making sure that we're communicating what it is that we're doing very seriously. And as we move forward with our planning process, both at Caper and then here, I think it's important that we share where we are, which is why at times whenever if I sound redundant in saying as to where we are, it's because I don't want to set a misexpectation. Part of what is setting the correct expectation now is that we have partners at the table who are open to engaging with the community, engaging with DCHA to meet our needs, and then collectively solve the challenges that we all face. Because replacing 493 public housing units in an environment of difficult economy, plus HUD investing less in traditional public housing, is not an easy one to solve. But it is one that this team is committed to find a way how we move forward to serve the needs of our residents and the community as a whole. So that is the one thing that I can give my word to.
All right, I'm writing that down.
Thank you, Ms. Frazier. Naomi? if you want to.
Okay. Have I unmuted myself?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
I want to make a couple of points. I want to again reinforce what Ricky is saying about Bill First. I really hear you saying Capitol Park would be infill. You put some residents in an existing building, so that's not a new building. I mean, it's not.
And Ms. Mitchell, just to clarify, that is one that they've offered as an option. That is not one that DCHA.
It's just the concept. The concept is that you're putting in an existing building, which is not necessarily new or
there. However, adjacent to that, the same owner has a vacant parcel, which would be a true building.
I heard that, but then there are parking requirements for that existing building and the new building that you'd be eliminating. I don't understand that, but let me just put that out there. I want to move on. What I hear you saying, I think, is that there are 4 phases. Is that what you said of the project?
The phasing is still subject to, as to, how quickly we can move. I know the development team in their proposal has their initial concept has multiple phases. I don't remember if it was 4 or 5 phases.
Well, I was wondering, what are those phases? What do they accomplish? Like you've got 3 sort of breakouts in this presentation that say something about engage, implement that.
So Naomi, part of what unlocks the phasing is being able to determine, how many first units we're able to jointly fund, and then know what footprint we'll be able to move forward on site. And we know how large of a site on site we have to do a phase. So it would be premature to tell you that this phase is going to be X number of units and this phase would be X number of units.
What I'm asking is really your concept of the time frame for the overall project. That is this piggybacking on Deborah's point? There are still some projects from Capitol Quarters that still have not been completed. Is this going to be in our lifetime that this project will be completed? I mean, you've got to be planning at some point.
Correct. I mean, there is. So right now, if we're talking about 1,400 plus units of total development spread across, I don't know, Jackie, I'll let you jump in here in a second too, over X number of buildings. And we're talking about a mix of both affordable and market. A lot of that will also be driven by market demand as to when certain projects can be brought online, and then also when subsidies are available to fund the deeply affordable pieces of the project. So I think, Jack, if you want to talk as to what you think the potential timeline could be, and the range that might fall.
Let me talk very conceptually. This is what's in my head, and we've got a couple of years of community engagement in entitlement work, right? Working with the community, working with the Office of Planning, working with DCHA to develop the plan, right? So that any project would need to go through that. The advantage of the Westminster site is that that's through that process. So here, while we're going through the approval process and the community outreach process on the 10 Greenleaf acres, that building, that Westminster, can be getting fully designed, permitted, and built, so that when this is again, Naomi, a concept, very conceptual, but when that building is now being constructed and built, we can then move the first residents from the 10 acres of Greenleaf to that new building, freeing up the first pad for construction on Greenleaf. And then as I think about it, and again, this is very high level, if you imagine that it takes 18 to 24 months to build a new building, with each of the 5 Greenleaf blocks A through E, I'm imagining 18 months between each block. Now, there's the potential that maybe there's that 2 blocks can go at one time, but in my mind, it's we get started at Westminster, we create swing space, the way I think of it, on the 10 acres of Greenleaf, and we roll through block by block by block, never pausing in between blocks. But we finish a block, then we move residents from the next block into the block that's just been completed, freeing that block up to be built. That is the benefit, of course, we know of build first and no displacement is that nobody gets displaced and they stay in their community. The challenge of it is you have to do it sequentially, right? You can't knock down all 5 blocks at once, because that's,
I understand that.
right. So we have to do it sequentially. And the
But
key
where,
for us is that,
I understand Bill first in that context. What I'm really worried about is so many of the existing family units are in such disrepair and such structural deficiencies that they won't last for 5 years as the residence that people can live in. So that maybe the concept is that you've got to have 2 build first sites. I mean, you've got to really be able to speed that up. And I don't know the money to keep them going until you get that done. But overall, Southwest is a highly desirable real estate market. I just don't see you having that much trouble financing anything. And when we look at the other projects that get started and finished in Southwest, they really move pretty quickly. It isn't financing that's really the difficulty. I understand the HUD financing and some of those other issues may not be market subject, but I'm thinking that one of the reasons DCHA is now able to do this is because of the value of the property in Southwest.
I think that's absolutely true, that the value of the ground is high. It's a super desirable place. I will say one of the elements to your point about units being in disrepair and perhaps on the path to being uninhabitable, while we said it wasn't the kind of the linchpin to build or piece of build first, this Capitol Park Plaza in Twins does allow folks that are in units and it's their choice. If they don't want to be in those units, they feel that they're in disrepair, they have the option. We've created the option for them to relocate if they choose. So it's not a build first piece of this. It's just for those folks that want to stay in the neighborhood but want to be in a different unit. We think that that's a great option for folks to consider.
And
so they be using vouchers for that?
Naomi, that's what I was just going to say, is like, even though the development team has proffered those as an option, it's still to be determined whether or not that would be one that would be available, because as Andre can speak to a little bit more, I mean, we still need to go through what's called the Section 18 demo dispo process. Right. And that's the process that would unlock any potential vouchers to make that a viable option. At this stage, DCHA does not, as you know, does not have, just vouchers in which it can issue.
So the vouchers could actually be used anywhere in Southwest that accepted vouchers and the rents were comparable. It isn't limited to the Capitol Towers. Is that not right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's true. They don't necessarily have to go to Capitol Park Plaza. That's just an option. And again, it's a temporary option as well. The team has offered it as a temporary relocation option. And the Section 18 process does take time. So again, we are just in the first steps and we're still planning this thing out step by step.
I hear you. I'm just sort of trying to push some buttons in terms of criticality of impacts of what you're talking about over a period of time. The other idea, but another thing I've heard, I think Ricky has too, or some others, that there's 2 buildings about to be finished soon that are all affordable, that are available in the community as an option rather than one of those that you currently control, like Capitol Towers. Ricky, you know what I'm talking about on First Street?
Naomi's talking about the two buildings on First Street, 1550 First and 1530. 1550 is literally about to be finished within months. It's all up, and that's 100% affordable. And 1530 will be the same. It hasn't started, but within your time frame, it'll be well done before before maybe even your first building is built. That's 1530. That's the TM Associates building, which you know well about, I'm sure.
Whether it's vouchers or a bill first site, it seems like that is sitting there as one item might help speed it up.
As a team, we would look to move and consider all options that would be available. It's important. I mean, we're just now starting our negotiations with this team. So
Yeah, I understand. I'm just talking to how we move people out faster and maybe to a site they may stay because conditions of
that'll be filled though. If they're ready to go, that'll be filled by the time you're ready to negotiate. You may be able, luck on.
I mean, I think, again, like I was saying, it's not just our negotiations with this team. It is also going through the process of HUD in order to take those public housing units offline and move and either voucher them to go somewhere else. Even that is a considerably can be a lengthy process. One that we are initiating now in conjunction with this development plan. If there are other options that are become available outside of the buildings that this team has, or the projects this team has done at that point, then obviously we would welcome that as well. So I do apologize. I know we're over time. I have a 10:30, but Jose, are there others who haven't had a chance to ask their questions?
A caller who joined a little bit late, phone number ending in 04. If that caller wants to unmute at this point to ask a question by pressing *6. 202, and then last two numbers are 04. You can press *6. Go ahead, caller. You're unmuted. Hello?
Yes, good morning. Reverend William Harrison, Second Union Baptist Church, has joined the meeting.
Good morning, Reverend. Go ahead, sir. Do you have comments or questions? Reverend, do you have a comment or question at this point in time? Okay. Just for everybody's purpose, I'll just reiterate, the meeting is being recorded. We will upload it to the project site. Does anyone else have any comments or questions before we come to a close today? If you can, just unmute and go ahead and do so.
I think if my closing statement would be that, again, I appreciate everyone spending the time this morning to have this conversation. And, and as I said at the beginning, this is truly just the introductory conversation. I think one of the things that's helpful for me with each conversation that I have, is getting a feel for what the hot button topics are and what the questions are. And I think it's good for the development team to hear that as well. As we continue to engage over the following months and years, I think a useful approach might be to try and address, especially once we're in some of these issues as like a topic-specific meeting, and go into a little bit of more depth of issues. But at least now the development team has a feeling for, what the concerns and what the community sees as opportunities. I do want to reiterate, and Ms. Walker, as the resident representation, if Ms. Walker or Ms. Frazier, if they have any other closing statements that they'd like to make.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Ms. Walker. I want to know, will the public housing units be constructed prior to the market rate?
So with regards to the build first units, those, are true build first, and those would need to be built prior to doing any development on site. However, it would be envisioned that the development on site would move in a mixed fashion. So, Jack, do you want to give a little bit more color to that? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're envisioning, the build first site being seniors. That would be 100% seniors. So the first units built would be affordable, and then each of the multifamily buildings that we envision in the project are going to be mixed. They're going to have market rate and public housing within the same building. So those get built all at the same time. Right? Those buildings are constructed and the units are delivered at the same time.
I think Ms. Walker's concern was that, as we know with Arthur Caper, they constructed they did that construction and development with the market rate units or townhomes going first. And then secondly, the others were placed in, which created some issues at Arthur Caper. So I think that's what her concern was as to the timing and the construction of the units.
and we are, while Caper seems to be an easy comparison given its proximity. I think the approaches are very different. This is not a Hope 6 project, and it is not one where we are demolishing and relocating folks. This is definitely one where, from the get-go, from the start, where we are, securing build first opportunities to prevent displacement. So the approach is different on this project, and would appreciate everyone in terms of trying to communicate that as well.
And I'll just add on to that point. I can only speak to the townhomes there, but I know, because I was very involved in that project, when we delivered a townhome building, and that may contain 6 or 8 townhomes, that entire building was delivered at the same time. So market rate buyers were moving in the same time. The policeman next to me was moving in the same time that the public housing resident on the other side. So there wasn't all of the market rate move in and then the workforce and the public housing, at least on that component. I can promise you that.
This is Ms. Walker again. That is my biggest concern. And this is what I hear from residents. And Ron, you were correct in assessing what I was trying to convey. When you start building market rate, you say you're going to build a mixed in. This is probably why Arthur Capper did not get all the units they were promised, because you build a market rate, then you sprinkle in some of the public housing units. You're going to be moving people with your build first site. So that's going to free up some of those 493 units of public housing. If you're going to put residents first, because the residents live here, I know that they should be the first units that you build. Because what probably is going to happen, who knows, funding could run out, but you still have your market rate units. But the public housing units, the 400, you may get 100, but you may have 1,000 market rate units. So that is the biggest concern. That is what residents in my community are concerned about. So when you say you're gonna mix, it's not gonna be a mix. It's gonna probably be the market rate prior to. I'm gonna let you know here, I'm not gonna allow that to happen. Because you say residents are first, because the market rate people don't live here now. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. And I think it's contingent upon this team as we move forward to demonstrate the commitment to the conditions that were laid out in the RFP as to how we move this forward. But we appreciate you holding DCHA and this development team, to that standard.
Can I ask one last question? Which I don't understand what you mean when you say you have control over the properties that you have control over. And the reason I'm asking it is the obvious reason of what's ready. But the other thing, it raises a larger issue, which I'd just like to put on the table. When we talk in Southwest about maintaining diversity and inclusiveness, every time you take a building that is not committed, that is not already committed to this project, you're taking away the potential for the larger whole of what will maintain diversity in Southwest. So it becomes very important for us to understand what exactly you mean by control and what kind of commitments have been made that are standing commitments now, so that we know what the plays both for this project and how it plays clear. So you keep
Jack,
talking
I'll
about
take this one
Westminster.
first.
Sure.
So from DCHA's perspective, this team has brought projects to the table to facilitate Build First. It is now contingent upon DCHA and this development team to negotiate and paper an agreement that then locks down which ones will be available for Build First. True, like that commitment that I think that you're speaking to. However, I don't think it would be fair to put the developers in this position who currently don't have a signed agreement with anyone in order to say that they are going to sit on these parcels in perpetuity in order to make this happen, which is all the more reason why it is important for our teams to work together along with the community and the residents in order to move as fast as possible to prevent losing the limited opportunities that does exist in Southwest in order to provide Build First opportunities for our residents.
Thank you.
Leave it to anybody else to try and add to that. That is the task, and that is the goal of
Thank you, Senthil.
Process that DCHA has undertaken. Okay, Jose, do you want to wrap us up?
It's 10:30 now. Thank you all for your participation. Andre and I will, if there's any questions that folks want to have, just make sure you route them back to Andre or myself. We hope everybody has a safe holiday, and we look forward to, again, there'll be another resident meeting in January, and then we'll come back to the group, this group in March. But in the meantime, feel free to reach back out to us if you have any inquiries. In the meantime, we'll have this video recording uploaded no later than Wednesday morning. But with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Sir, I have a quick question, if I may.
Reverend Harrison, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Has the developer been named yet?
Yes.
Okay.
The team has been.
Yes,
I'm sorry, sir.
The name, is that public yet or not?
It is. It's in the presentation that I sent you last week, Reverend Harrison.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'll get it then. I won't delay. Thank you so much, sir.
No worries, and I'll send you the recording of this as well, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a blessed day and good
No
Christmas.
problem. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you very much, everybody. Really appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Has left the meeting. A participant